I'm DJ Psyched, and you're watching the Get Psyched YouTube channel. Let's get psyched about YouTube. Post-editing Leeann here to apologize for the way this video kind of came out. There are certain parts that you can't really see what I'm clicking on, and I did write at the very bottom of the video what it is I'm clicking on if it isn't clear in the video. The screen recording software I used kind of messed that up, so I'm really sorry, but I think there's still plenty of useful information in this video on how to use Photoshop in the most basic of ways, especially when you're making a thumbnail. I've been using Photoshop for a few years though, so if anything in this video was unclear, just let me know in the comments below. I will reply to you. If you have any questions, if you need any help with anything, just let me know. I'm really sorry for the way that this video turned out. I didn't expect that to happen, but I will remake this video once I have access to that software again. So please enjoy. I hope you still get a lot of use out of this. And like I said, comment below if you need anything. I will definitely reply, and stay psyched. All right, I use the same application to screenshot that I use to record my video, so that's why I had to stop it for a second. But yeah, I screenshotted it, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it into Photoshop so that I can edit my picture. Now, I have a very simple format for my thumbnails, and I think that it's kind of cool to make your thumbnails somewhat uniform, so I follow the format that I use for all of mine. The first, most basic thing that I do is I like to, as you might see if you've ever looked through my channels, that I like to have this little Get Psyched logo here. Because I already have the logo created and thrown into its own layer, it's really easy for me to just grab this logo and copy it with the Control-C and then paste it in with Control-V, and bam, we can get psyched. Now, there's a lot I can do to this photo to improve it. I have been working with Photoshop for years, so I'm pretty proficient in it at this point. This is an incredibly blurry thing, sadly, so I'm going to try and sharpen it. I'm just going to go to Filter, Sharpen, and let's see which kind of sharpen will work. First, I'll just try and sharpen. That didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, it helped a little bit, but this video is really sharpened. I can sharpen more. Yeah, it's nothing that's gonna make this high quality, to be honest, but let's smart sharpen it a little bit, huh? Amount, sharpen. Yeah, that's fine. It's just a thumbnail. I'm not that concerned. I'm just gonna smart sharpen it a little bit. Oh, nope. And that's the problem with doing this kind of thing. As you can see, I wasn't sharpening that at all the entire time. I was on the wrong layer, so lesson learned there. When you do stuff, make sure you're on the right layer. I'm not trying to sharpen this. I'm trying to sharpen my image. I don't know why I was under the illusion something was happening, but there was nothing happening because I was on the wrong layer. So I'm going to sharpen it, and I'll still, again, try and sharpen more. Alright, I don't really love that. You see, like, now it looks really pixelated-y and weird. So I'm going to smart sharpen it to see if I can avoid that a little bit. But like I said, this is just a thumbnail, so I'm not going to be too concerned about how it looks. This is the neat thing about smart sharpen. It'll give you a bit of an idea of how to look. Yeah, it's going to look a bit pixelated no matter how I do it. So I'm just going to make it, yeah, I don't even know. To me, that kind of looks slightly blurrier, but whatever. We do the best we can. So I'm going to go to my text, and what I like to do for my videos, just put the title or just something catchy. It's not always the title, just whatever it's about. So this video in particular was for my habit series, and this week's habit was no spending. And that's kind of a slightly interesting thing, you know, to talk about not spending money. So that's gonna be my hook. No spending. Perfect. And the color I make it just depends on what color happens to be in the video. Because the background is dark and colorful, I think white will look just fine. And for me, what I like to do, if you go into your layer when you have a text and you double click it, you're going to get this option menu here where you can do your blending options. And stroke is basically like outlining your text. When you go to outline your text, you can choose how big it is, how much its opacity is or whatever. But the most important thing is make sure that your color is not the same as your text, or else you won't see the stroke. So now that the stroke is black, you can see it kind of outlined the text, which makes it stand out a little bit more. And that's something I always do with my YouTube video thumbnails. No spending. Alright, so that's honestly, like, sometimes I would just let it go there. I'm like, this is a fine thumbnail. It doesn't have to be like the most extravagant thing ever. There's me talking about getting psyched. There's the no spending. But I can also just throw in an image here if I want. Sometimes I'll go in and let's look for something. So I'm just gonna save the image. It's money. I'll save it in downloads, because for me, putting things in downloads just makes it easier for me to remember to throw it away later. Alright. Now I just do the same thing I did before to put it in there. So something fun to note when you do this kind of thing is that if I were to put it directly on here, it would fall onto my image. But I don't want it to do that because I want to edit this picture first. I just used the backspace button to get rid of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it up here at the top so that it gets its own little section so I can edit it as its own picture. And this nifty tool right here will select what I want it to select. Boom. It's a smart selection tool. So if I were to vaguely go over the money, it's going to pick up the money and it's going to select the money. Very neat. I'm going to press Control Copy so that I can take it out of this image. And since it's selected and Control Copied, I can put it into this image. Now, as you can see, it did a pretty good job of dropping it in without the background. But right here, there's just a little bit of background. That sometimes happens with a smart selection tool. It's pretty easy if it's just this small minor part to take the eraser tool and just rub it off. With the eraser, the only thing you really have to focus on is the size and the hardness. The harder it is, the stricter your line is going to be. Like, there's going to be no... Basically, softness is just like a fuzz that goes around it. And if you want the fuzz, for different reasons, you might want the fuzz or not want the fuzz. I usually keep it somewhere around like 94 or something because it's not too hard, but there's also like not enough fuzz that you would see my big mistake. That was a terrible eraser job. I do have a tablet that makes this a little bit easier, but I'm just doing it with my mouse right now, so my hand's probably gonna shake a little bit. But yeah, just doing the best I can to take that background off. Bam. I messed that up a little bit, but it's fine. Because what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna press Control T, and now I can transform this image to be more appropriately sized. Maybe since it's a corner, I could like play. The fun thing about Photoshop is just playing around with ideas and seeing what you like and what works for the picture clip. Now it's a little fuzzy right now, but when I hit this tool and move it, it'll fit. Bam. Oh wow, that looks that looks interesting. But yeah, that's the basics, right? You select something, you can edit it out, you can use the eraser tool. This tool is very neat because if I wanted like my text to match the color of something in my picture, I could just pick up the color with this color pickup tool, and then I would just grab my text. I would go to this color thing down here, and I would just hit OK because it's already selected the color I chose. And now it matches my shirt. I don't want to do that though, so I'm going to undo that. But you get the idea. So that's a nifty little tool you can use when you're editing your pictures. This is the history brush tool. Like it says, it'll restore a part to its earlier form if you do something to it. Of course, with Photoshop, the best advice I can give is to understand layers and really practice using layers and remembering to stay on the right layer when you do something. When you put something new in your picture, it's a good idea to usually keep it in its own layer for the start so that if you just decide you don't want that in the picture, it's easy to drop the layer. Or if you want to start reordering the layers, if I were to put things together, like if I wanted to put the Get Psyched on top of that, that layer is already over it. But let's say I don't know, I wanted the money. Let's put the Get Psyched here. Now the Get Psyched's over the money. But now the money's over the Get Psyched. So in my case, the layers don't matter that much because they're not touching each other, but utilizing layers is very helpful for ordering the stuff in your picture. When you're editing parts of your picture, right? Like if I wanted to change the color of the Get Psyched, I would want to click on the Get Psyched and go to Image, Adjustments. This is a very good tool to utilize in Photoshop, using color balance to color balance your picture. You really can't, it doesn't make sense to color balance this because it's black and white. But let's say I wanted to hue and saturation this and change the hue of the picture. Why is it not changing the hue and saturation? Alright, well it's doing it for the lightness, but I guess there's no, I don't know. But yeah, if I wanted to change the lightness of it, I could just do that. Like whatever, I'm going to cancel, I'm not trying to change that. But you just want to make sure you're on the right layer when you use these tools. This isn't a full Photoshop tutorial, it's just for the thumbnail, but yeah, there's a lot you can do. You could blur parts of your image. I don't know, I just wanted to show how to make a thumbnail. I thought it'd be a neat way to end off this how to make a video series. So what I'm going to do at the end of it is I'm going to export it. And when you export images and save images, or take them out, whatever, you can make them the proper size and the proper type of format. For this, see this is pixels. I'm doing it by pixels right now. You could definitely change the size and stuff. I don't know why I just did that. I don't want to change it. File, export as. That's how I like to export my stuff. You could change the size, but I'm going to keep the size as it is because the size matches my video, so it'll be good for my thumbnail. I like to take things out in a JPEG for thumbnails. I just found that YouTube takes it so I don't change that. But if you did have a thumbnail that didn't fit YouTube's guidelines, you could see what YouTube says and adjust it accordingly. And you could take it out in a PNG if you wanted. I mean, there are differences. My rule of thumb is I usually use things as a JPEG if it's going to be a YouTube thumbnail or something like that. And if it's transparent, I use it as a PNG. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure PNG is the best one for transparent images. But yeah, once I do that, I can just export. It'll ask you to save a title for it. I always say whatever the thing is that I put in my thumbnail, and then I put thumbnail, so that when I want to go back, if I ever want to see all my thumbnails, all I gotta do is type in thumbnail, and they're all there. And that's it. I've made a YouTube thumbnail. If you watched all of this, thanks for watching. If you have any questions about Photoshop or about Adobe in general, if you just have any questions about this series, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to try and answer and help if I can. But yeah, until next time, let's get psyched about making videos.